Gen Z love to manifest. Where's that coming from? Do you
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's been around for a while, and there's a lot of like young stars, people like Ariana Grande, Jennifer Aniston is a manifester, Oprah's a manifester, Bruce Lee was a manifester.
Was he?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you know that I saw his mission statement framed, it was in Planet Hollywood in Hong Kong, and it was, the writing had this determination in it. It said, I, Bruce Lee, will be the best known, highest paid Eastern actor in the world, by 1973. Yeah, I mean, things like that. I mean, Jim Carrey wrote a check to himself for $10 million, so he could experience the feeling of being paid that much. Right. Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of the younger people who are talking about doing it now.
Virgin Radio.
Well, what a pleasure it is to welcome our guest today. He's a hypnotist, a behavioural scientist and a broadcaster, and now he's helping us get what we want in life with his new book. It's called Power Manifesting, the New Science of Getting What You Want. Perfect time of the week to have this perfect guest. Paul McKenna, lovely to see you again, Paul.
Hello,
Welcome.
Ryan. Yeah, it's lovely to see you, actually. I haven't seen you for a while.
No, and we were reminiscing there about previous encounters, mostly in Dublin, but of course, and then you're playing... as part of your tour, you're all around the UK, but also in Dublin, the beautiful Pavilion Theatre in Dunleary. So
I love it there. It's fantastic.
And you've even found your name over a pub door nearby.
That's right. There's a pub called McKenna's.
It's a great spot.
Yeah, I've taken a picture of that and put it on my social media.
Yeah. Well, that's those pub visits are crucial for research purposes.
Exactly. I find after Guinness, I get some very good ideas.
I bet you do.
I can't remember them all, but
but you just manifest those pints. Let's talk a little bit about how are you, by the way? How's life?
I'm top of the world, thank you, Ryan. Yeah, I'm in a very good place. I've got a lot of great things going on. I'm in good health, and a lot of great projects taking place. So,
isn't it funny, as you get older, the first thing that comes to mind has to be good health, doesn't it?
You're so right. I never used to think about my health.
No.
But I've noticed, say, since the pandemic, everyone I know is taking their health more seriously.
I had that flu last week. No, but it's fine. Yeah. You're dead for 2 days, you're a zombie for 5, and then you're fine. Right. But I remember halfway through it going, God, the arrogance of health. I'm so arrogant about it. And then when I got better, I thought, now it's all good again.
Exactly.
I appreciate everything a bit more. Let's talk about manifestation, Paul, and how it's become. I say it's become a thing. I presume it's been around for thousands of years. But why don't you take us from the beginning what we're talking about here?
Well, manifesting is the act of imagining something and then bringing it into being. And so that's different to, say, wishing for something. New Year's resolutions are like wishes. So where people say, oh, I really want to lose weight or quit smoking, and by the end of this week, they won't. They'll have fallen off the wagon. So, if all we had to do was wish, we'd all be living in, sort of fabulous mansions, living a life of luxury. Manifesting is using your imagination to create something. And the way I do it is this. I go off into the future, and I imagine the thing has already happened. I've achieved my goal. Wow. What do I see? What do I hear? How do I feel? Then I do an ecology check. I think, now hang on, were there any consequences to this? Did I burn myself out doing it or upset somebody? Then at that point I go, what are the things that could stop me? What could get in the way? Right, so I can head those off at the pass. And then I back engineer it. I go, right, what happened just before that? And what happened before that? And what happened before that? Until I'm back to now. And then my mind has a clear route to achieving what it is. Right. So it's a kind of a sophisticated way of goal setting.
Yes, and it's practical. I love that delineation between wishing and manifesting, because wishing sounds... It's a bit airy-fairy, isn't it? I mean, it's nothing wrong with wishing to do something. I wish I could be somebody or go somewhere or whatever. But to manifest, it seems to have a different layer of practicality. Is that the word?
That's it. And, you can find science to support manifesting. In a sense, it's right in the family of quantum physics. But even if you just look at goal setting, which is the basic sort of manifesting, people who are very clear about their goals are significantly more likely to achieve them than those people who are very vague about them.
Yeah, because you in your book, you talk about you hang out with a lot of really high achieving people, and you have done down through the years. In fact, you've probably helped them by training them and what have you immensely. So what do they have in common? How do we distill that commonality to try and help people like us who mightn't be as driven or smart as those guys?
Well, people who, first of all, they think big. I mean, Elon Musk famously said recently, if you can't imagine millions of dollars, you're never going to have millions in your bank account. So people like that think big. And I found, for example, Richard Branson's a good example. He was sitting on a plane in the 1970s.
Yes.
And, in those days, there was one TV screen in the center of the cabin and these awful, plastic headphones. And someone came along and threw something that looked like chicken in your lap, and that was it. And he sat there and he thought, if I had an airline, and he designed it in his imagination. He went, right, TV in every seat, nice headphones, flat bed, we'll have a bar, we'll have a great lounge where people like to go to, et cetera, et cetera. And what he did was he created this inside his imagination. He gets off the flight, and then he did a thing which is one of the things that makes a difference. He took action.
Yes.
And he phoned Boeing and he said, what's a jumbo jet? And they went, crikey, I can't afford that. Oh, I could lease one. And so what happened was he imagined it in his mind first, then he took action, but he also interrogated, the sort of whether the thing would bankrupt the company or not, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing that the high achievers have, I suppose, in common is they dream big. They interrogate their thing, they think what could go wrong, and they think to themselves, how's this project going to work? So they do logistics on it. But when they're satisfied with that, they always take massive action.
Yes.
Because, lots of people have had the experience of thinking of an idea for a product or service, and then you open a magazine or you go online and you see someone else has done the same idea. And the difference between you and them is they took action and you didn't. So taking action is a part of manifesting.
Plan you're describing planning, like really meticulous planning, and I suppose ambition as well.
Yes.
And I suppose the curious thing for me is, which I can never quite get my head around, is so what makes that manifestation? Why has that word become de rigueur all of a sudden again?
Do you know? I don't know, because when I first started doing this back in the 80s, I tell you what happened was a friend of mine said, we were driving around the West End. He went, I'm going to manifest a parking space.
Yes.
And he said, I'm going to ask the parking fairies for a space. Well, lo and behold, we found one. I went, oh God, shit, how mad, a bonkers, right? Anyway, a few days later, I thought maybe I'll give it a go. So I said, and sure enough, I found one. Now, actually, what is taking place is part of the brain called the reticular activating system is sorting for that thing that you want, right? So when I decided I wanted to buy a BMW back in the 1980s, I suddenly start to see them everywhere.
Yes.
Because my brain is sorting for that. So even though manifesting has this slight association with sort of New Age thinking, it is really, if you trace it back, quite a, as you say, pragmatic approach to achieving things.
Yes.
And so one of my friends said to me, look, I've noticed you kind of get what you want. You sort of achieve the things mostly that you want to achieve. And I went, yeah, I'd never really thought about it. He said, and you manifest it, don't you? I went, I do, but I don't use that word because it's not very scientific. And he went, come out of the closet. Come on.
Yeah.
Why don't you write a book about it? And I went, all right, let me think about it. And as I started doing it, I went, do you know, I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah.
And I don't care if people think it's a bit strange because I'm going to explain it scientifically. And, it's worked for me. I've got a great life. But I've also seen it because I've studied people who are successful. And by the way, with success, I put happiness in that equation because there are some people who've maybe excelled in one area, but at the cost of many others.
I love that.
Yeah, I don't see them as successful. So if, all you've done is create, it's that great Bob Marley saying, some people are so poor, all they have is money, right?
Yeah.
So, if you've only achieved at one thing at the cost of your health or your relationships, that to me is not real success. That's just exceptionalness in one area.
Stay with us, Paul McKenna. We've loads more places to go, so
sure.
back in a moment. Our guest at the top of the tower today is the great Paul McKenna, and I was just saying to you, Paul, I talk often about the chat show gods or the radio gods. They send guests like you to us. For people like me, don't have to say an awful lot. And it's a joy. It's a real joy. We've been reminiscing about the different shows we met on before and so on.
Yeah.
But one of the guests I love talking to from Ireland is a guy called Barry Keoghan, who's making great splash now, Oscar nominated now.
Right.
He's doing great things. And when I spoke to him initially, and now he's now up into Oscar territory, but he was a boy from Dublin, came from a tough enough background, but he worked his way through it, and he had a manifestation notebook.
Yeah.
I will work with this director. I will win this award. I will do this. And he has achieved pretty much, and he's working with the best of the best, and it's all happening. I always use him as an example of manifestation come good, and a lot of his generation, Gen Z, love to manifest. Where is that coming from, do you
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's been around for a while, and there's a lot of like young stars, people like Ariana Grande, and Jennifer Aniston is a manifestor, Oprah's a manifestor, Bruce Lee was a manifestor.
Was he?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you know that I saw his mission statement framed, it was in Planet Hollywood in Hong Kong, and it was, the writing had this determination in it. It said, I, Bruce Lee, will be the best-known, highest-paid Eastern actor in the world, by 1973. Yeah, I mean, things like that. I mean, Jim Carrey wrote a check to himself for $10 million, so he could create the experience, the feeling of being paid that much. Right. Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of the younger people who are talking about doing it now. And as you know, it was word of the year last year in the Cambridge Dictionary. And also, the amount of hashtags and Google searches for it means that it's one of those things that sort of an idea whose time has come.
Yeah, and you in your book, there's sections, so what you want, manifest your dreams, and then the key areas in life: health, relationships, and love, money, career, lifestyle. And then you have this bit at the end where you have to have a pen handy because it's time to start writing stuff down.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's part of the practicality of pen to paper.
Absolutely, because most people spend more time, making a list for the supermarket than they do the next year or 5 years of their life. And one of the things that we know, from the research, and the people like it's like there's a great Harvard study that shows people who are clear about their goals are just way more likely to achieve them. So part of my what I do in this book is get people clear about what it is they want. And very often people they're not sure, and when you get people to go to their values, that sort of exposes it. So when somebody says to me, I want money, I'll go, what will that get if you do for you? They say, a feeling of security. So actually the value is security. And I think I used to be a relentless goal setter, and there's nothing wrong with that. But these days I find living my values has made me much happier. Because if you look at how happy people were in the 1940s and now, there isn't much difference, even though we're richer, we have more freedoms, we're healthier, all these sorts of things. And that's because I believe we've confused pleasure with happiness. Pleasure is a glass of champagne, buying a new car. Happiness is when you tick the box of living your values every day. So for me, it would be, do I feel healthy? Yeah. Do I feel loved? Do I love my family first? Yes. Was I creative today? Yes. Did I feel freedom? Did I get to choose most of the things that I do? Yeah, etc. Yes. So I think that's kind of the key, because this is a book about getting what you want, but also, because I'm not installing my model of happiness, but I'm setting it up in the structure of the book that people can find a balance, because I think that's where I've seen people go wrong. They go all in on their career and ambition at the cost of something else.
Yeah, it's the pursuit of contentment shouldn't be a bad thing either. Contentment is a lovely place to be. Yeah. Happy can be quite a high bar. Yeah. Contentment is like, that'll do nicely. It's good. Paul, what a pleasure to see you again, and thanks for coming to see us.
Oh no, thank you.
At the top of the tower. Paul McKenna's book's called Power Manifesting: The New Science of Getting What You Want. You've sold, I think, over 15 million books down through the years.
I have, yeah. I've been around for a while, been doing this about 25 years.
So you know what you're doing?
I think so.
And what do you want to be when you grow up? Paul McKenna, what a joy. See you soon.
Thank you, Ryan.
Virgin Radio.